On Monday, a handful of state legislators in Arizona will try to undo what has become known nationwide as a true real-life death panel. One man has already lost a liver that was specifically donated to save his life because Arizona had stripped state Medicaid coverage known as access from 7 kinds of organ transplants, leaving some 100 patients to their own devices. 2 others have died, removed from the waiting list because the Arizona death panel would not pay for their transplants. But now in our 4th story tonight, something truly encouraging. The slight tendrils of bipartisan pushback on this draconian measure might be blossoming. An Illinois man has scoured Arizona's entire state budget, looking for ways of putting that small amount of money back in. And that man is a Republican. Republican Governor Jan Brewer has stood behind her decision to let some of her own citizens die, saying that her job requires her to make tough choices. She has refused, however, to open the state's books so that advocates for the Arizona 98, as the patients have now come to be known, can determine how, for instance, the governor's using stimulus money that could cover the $4 million or less needed to keep providing transplant coverage. Keep in mind, the Brewer administration had months after approving the budget last spring in which to find the money that would, for instance, have allowed Francisco Felix to receive a liver from his dead friend, instead of being yanked from the operating room at the last minute for lack of funds. So one man took it upon himself to read the state budget and the reports from the state auditor general and the ones from the treasurer and from the legislature and from the Access Insurance Program itself. He hoped to find the $1 million plus, which, along with federal matching funds, would then cover the transplants. And guess what? He did it. His website, Arizona98.com, lists 26 separate ways Arizona could use existing funds or raise new funds to pay for these transplants. Everything from using the proceeds from a settlement with AIG to selling bonds backed by future settlements from Big Tobacco to cutting subsidies for travel by Arizona State University sports teams. And the man who does this doesn't even live in Arizona. He's from Obama's district in Illinois, and he's not only a Republican, he's an official of the Illinois Republican Party. That's him, Stephen Douglas, with a guy you might recognize as the architect of the Bush presidency. And joining us now is Illinois Republican Party committeeman Steve Douglas. Thank you kindly for your time tonight, sir.
Thank you for having me, Keith. I appreciate it.
Before we get to some of the details here, you told the Arizona Republic, as I already quoted, this isn't a Republican thing or a Democrat thing, it's a human thing. Amen to that. Republicans make mistakes and Democrats make mistakes, and I'm wondering if you sense and fear, as I sense and fear, that elected politicians of both parties are now terrified of admitting even a mistake of this size for fear of blowback from their bases.
I think there's some validity to that point, Keith, without a doubt. The primary concern here is this will set a dangerous precedent. I think there are a lot of good people in government on both sides of the aisle, Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, Conservative, Liberal, across the spectrum of politics. These are good people who mean well and sometimes just get caught up in the overwhelming pressures of government and leading a state the size of Arizona. It's a $9 billion budget, and I understand tough decisions have to be made, but right now, I don't think that's the way to go. So here's a way we can work on this and just make this right together.
Actually, 26 different ways. Having said
26.
that, yeah,
26.
How was Governor Brewer thrilled when you sent her this list of 26 ways to pay for this and reestablish the insurance?
That's the hope, Keith. I don't know. We just haven't been able to get through to her. I'm hoping, and what I'm praying for, and I think a lot of the families are praying for, is that these are on her desk, and if they weren't on her desk, they're on her desk now. She'll look at these 26 possible funding solutions, pick at least 1 or 2 that she likes and finds suitable, and move forward with that, and quite literally save the lives of these 96 remaining individuals now who need transplants.
So no response from the governor. I know there has been there's been some murmurs among Republican members of the Arizona legislature that they want to be involved in fixing this, no matter who winds up getting credit for it. But I do know that you've reached out to some of the Democrats in the legislature who are fighting this. Has there been more of a response there?
We've gotten some positive feedback on both sides, Keith. I got a call actually today, which is very, very encouraging, from Chairman Kavanaugh of the House Appropriations Committee out in Arizona. Representative Anna Tovar on the Democratic side, she's been helpful. Leela, forgive me, I can't remember her exact last name at the moment. I believe it's Akins. She's been extremely encouraging. And a lot of people behind the scenes and on the ground are looking at these options and saying, these are good ideas. These funding solutions don't take money away from anyone else. They require no new spending, and they require no cuts to state services or other obligations. These are ways to restore life, restore transplant funding without taking away from anyone else, And I think that's an idea that everyone wants to get on board with. Just at the end of the day, there's a basic sense of it's the right thing to do as a matter of humanity. Like we said, it's not a Democrat thing, it's not a Republican thing, it's a human thing. And you guys are doing great work here just by keeping the story alive. I know a lot of the families I've spoken with really, really appreciate it, not to mention the folks you've had on your program, Keith. It's incredible.
Thank you for saying that. Well, lastly, tell me the story. What specifically? No, well, tell me specifically what inspired you to get involved in this.
I read the story of Tiffany Tate. She's only 27. I myself am 30. And I read the story about how she needed the lung transplant, and it struck me that she's 3 years younger than me. I've already been on the face of this earth for 3 years longer than Tiffany will be if she doesn't get these transplants. So I took a look at what could I do as a human being just to help. I'm not a wealthy man. I can't write a check to cover these transplants, but I know something about politics. I know something about policy, Keith. So it's kind of a stretch to think that one person could do it, but I got this crazy idea in my head that somehow, some way, I could find the money. And I went through, like I said, I went through the entire budget line by line. I went through thousands of pages of audits, briefings, and you know, there were people who pointed me in the right direction along the way too, and just came up with these solutions. And like I said, as a conservative myself, Keith, I wanted to find ways that wouldn't take away from anyone else but would restore life. And I think these are ways to do it that everyone can agree on, Republican, Democrat, just as a matter of humanity. We can do this, and here's exactly how we can do it. Pick one.
Right.
Pick one of the 26, whatever floats your boat, and let's do it.
You gave him enough choices. Well done, sir. Stephen Douglas, the founder of Arizona98.com, and my thanks to you for your time and for being with us.
It's been a privilege, sir. Have a good night.
You too.